the Schreiber Freshman Orchestra. We actually have a second performance tonight. Mrs. Regan from Manor Haven persuaded me to allow the students to have a little hoedown for us tonight. So we're going to make that switch, which will happen in just a second. While that's happening, I really just wanted to take a moment to thank Sherry Suzanne, our Director of Creative Arts, and all of our music and art teachers this year for really enhancing our board meetings with these very short performances, and oftentimes there have been art exhibits outside for everyone's enjoyment. I think it just speaks to an aspect of our programming of which we are extremely proud, and our students have these wonderful talents that we can all see showcased on a monthly basis. So thank you very much.
Are That was a wonderful performance, a great way to begin a meeting. Thank you very much. And Mrs. Callahan, will you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Mrs. Sloan, Mr. Hohauser, Mr. Baer, Mr. Greenstein, Mrs. Johnson, Mr. McDermott, Mr. Ryan. Thank you.
I'll now make a motion for the adoption of the agenda, June 11, 2013. Do I have a second? Mrs. Johnson, all in favor? 7-0, thank you. We will now move to student and community comments. I'd just like to remind everyone to please identify themselves for the record and that we will be having a 3-minute limit for each speaker. Anyone that would like to speak, please come up to the microphone.
How about now? Wow. Okay, sorry. My name's John Marks, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say I haven't been to a school board meeting here despite having kids in the program for the last 21 years. Maybe that's because I'm not a big complainer, but the fact is I'm a passionate baseball dad who, for the first time has a kid who's playing. He's on the JV team this year. And I'm really here to speak on behalf of the 30 or so kids that are involved currently in the baseball program, as well as, many that are going to be playing over the next few years here in this town. I wasn't ever really aware of what the field was like that they play on at Guggenheim, and I don't know if a lot of you have been to this field and seen what it looks like, but after, going to every game this year, home and away, and seeing all the other fields that people play on the South Shore, locally around here, Roslyn, Manhasset, we're really playing baseball on a extremely substandard, and almost embarrassing field. I don't know, when we will talk about this in the future. I'm going to try to get a bunch of people to come with me. And I'm really just here to make people aware of the issue. I know there's only a few minutes to talk here, and I'm overly passionate about baseball, but anybody who would come to any of these games that we play at Guggenheim, which a lot of the JV and varsity players are currently this summer playing down there, a full schedule that gives you a lot of choices of what game to come and visit. But I'd like to implore people to come down, take a look at what the field looks like, and I think in the end everybody's going to come to the same conclusion that we have to do something about this. It's really not fair to let these kids and ask them to commit the kind of time they commit. They are in many cases very top student athletes, and the emphasis on the student part. So I'm not even sure exactly what I'm asking for except for help. And I think we'll be able to raise some money privately. I know money's tough everywhere, but if you go around to any other school district, anywhere on Long Island, anywhere in our region close by, our field is not anywhere near to the standard it should be. So I hope you give this some consideration. Thanks.
Are there any other community comments at this time? Okay, thank you. Just for the record, for the gentleman that just spoke and to everyone else, you can come speak to us here and not be complaining. We welcome everyone, but thank you. And I would just like to start tonight by speaking about this time of year. We have a lot of certificates, and it's such a wonderful time of year at the school district. Everywhere you go, there's a ceremony, there's a performance, there's something. It can keep you hopping every night, and I try to go to as much of it as I can, and I know Dr. Mooney pretty much is out there every night, but the ones I was able to attend, it's so wonderful to see, and at every age. But the parents sitting here tonight with all the cameras and the kids up there on the stage, before you know it, they'll be the ones at the Schreiber Award ceremonies. And it's wonderful to go to those and see the culmination of what we do here. So thank you to everyone that participated in preparing those ceremonies in the school district, and to the parents who got the kids there, and to the kids who worked so hard to get there. It's really wonderful. And we are going to speak to the parent volunteers in a little while. But speaking of volunteers, tonight is the last meeting for one of our trustees, Mr. Robert Ryan, and we would like to recognize him for all the hard work he's done. In particular, I have to say, for anyone that doesn't know, I do not think we would have had the bond for the roofs if not for Mr. Ryan. He came on the board and he went on the facilities tour, and that was it. He never stopped talking about it, and he was determined, and thanks largely to his determination, he involved members of the community, he reached out to everyone, and not only did the bond pass last year, but it did with flying colors, with great community support, and the work will begin this summer. Hopefully no more leaks, and it's just a wonderful thing that he's done for us, and I think that is his biggest legacy, so I want to thank him for all of his hard work. 3 years passed in a blur, and thank you. Thank you for your service to us. And we have a very beautiful, for 3 years, 24/7, this is what you get, a beautiful plaque to the Award of Appreciation presented to Robert K. Ryan in recognition of your service, Port Washington School District Board of Education, 2013.
You have to do a farewell tour now, Bob. You have to do a farewell tour. Hello. My first day here, someone said to me, "Who are you?" And they're probably still asking, "Who am I?" 3 years went fast, and I'm glad we got the roofs passed, and we got some bonds refinanced and saved some money there. And the key thing is I like to thank the Board of Ed. The amount of time they put in is staggering, and I'd like to thank the parents and the students. I've been around the community for 40 years, and it's only been the last 3 years where I see youngsters walking in out of stores and how well behaved they are and how nice they are, and just gives you a good feeling that we've got such great kids in this town. I will say that every year I've been on the board, I've always thought highly of the school, but I didn't have any kids that went here. But as every year went by, I just felt that this was such a better and better and better place. And it looks nice. The people are very nice. The students are nice. The staff is wonderful. It's just a great place for kids to go to school, and I guess that's what we all want. So with that, sayonara.
And now we will go to the certificates this evening, and Mrs. Johnson, no, we'll start with Mr. Greenstein because you have yours.
Because I have my envelope. Well, this is the Board of Education would like to recognize Kyle Kalenda for his volunteerism and support of the Port Washington School District, serving as a student representative for the Board of Education for 2012-2013 school year. We'd like to thank him for his service, but we picked the one time he didn't actually come, and that was sort of by design because we didn't want to embarrass him. But anyway, thank you, Kyle, and good luck in your future endeavors, and you were a great help this year. And Will, send us along.
I just wanted to add on behalf of Kyle, he had a lacrosse dinner tonight. He's been a terrific member. When he sits up here, he really gives some very thoughtful reports, and we truly appreciate that. The good news for us is that Kyle will actually be returning next year, so we're excited about that. So, and I told him he could watch the live stream if he wanted to see us thank him tonight. So.
Next, I would like to move to a very important group of volunteers in our district, and each year one co-president of the HSAs and PTAs moves on, usually to another HSA or PTA in the district, and we'd like to recognize that president that will be moving on to other things this evening and thank them. The Board of Education would like to recognize the following co-presidents of the Port Washington School District's home and school associations for their selfless and untiring work in the interests of the children of Port Washington. Please save your applause until the end. Emily Bays, Joanne Sika, Mary Alice Coase, Melissa Basicchio, Stephanie Silverstein, Julie Schissel, Robin McDermott, Christina Nadolny, Melissa Kurgis, Betsy Golan, and Christine Stein. Thank you for your service to the community of Port Washington. Please come up for your certificates. Will you all please come up?
We had dinner.
We do have a couple of more certificates. The certificate I have is one that we had wanted to present to the Teachers Association on May 7th, which was our tenure reception night. And in all the festivities, I forgot. May 7th was actually National Teacher Day, so we do have a certificate proclamation for the Teachers Association. Whereas teachers make public schools great, and whereas teachers work to open students' minds to ideas, knowledge, and dreams, whereas teachers keep American democracy alive by laying the foundation for good citizenship, and whereas teachers fill many roles as listeners, explorers, role models, motivators, and mentors, and whereas teachers continue to influence us long after our school days are only memories, I now, therefore, serving as superintendent of schools of Port Washington School District, well, I did proclaim May 7th as National Teacher Day. And I'd just like to ask Christine Vasila, president of the Port Washington Teachers Association, to accept this certificate. That's right.
We have one last certificate, Mrs. Johnson.
Sousa Elementary student Tyler Fazzari, he's 9 years old, has been instrumental in providing a $20,000 smart board package to the students of Eastern Elementary School in Long Beach. In the wake of Superstorm Sandy, on October 29, 2012, he learned of the suffering of the students during the aftermath. In lieu of birthday presents, he requested donations for their school. When Smartboards heard of his compassion and generosity, they made the donation to the students in Tyler's honor. The Board of Education and District Administration congratulates Tyler and presents him with a certificate of excellence. Please come up, Tyler.
Can you give this picture too?
Congratulations, great job.
Thank you, Charlie.
That's what he looks like.
I just wanted to say just a few words. I really think what Tyler did embodies what many of our students do over the years. So in a sense, he's a little bit of an ambassador and a representative for all of our students who really step up, and when they see others in need, they really organize and do things to help so many other people. We all know how fortunate we were within our own district after Hurricane Sandy, but for many of our students, and Tyler in particular, to take these special steps is just such a testament to, as Mr. Ryan mentioned, the wonderful students in our district, and of course their parents, who are also just responsible for their big hearts. It's wonderful, and we thank you, Tyler, and I think you're helping us end our school year in a very, very positive, great way. So thank you.
Dr. Mooney, would you give your report now?
I do want to open, of course, just by thanking the entire community for the passing of our school budget. I believe we had a 70% passing rate. I think that is one of the highest passing rates that we have had. I want to thank the Board of Education for all the hard work that they put into crafting this budget and to assure everyone involved that we will take good care of this budget and make sure that it is implemented to the benefit of all of our students. In particular, I also just want to thank again the Port Washington Teachers Association for their contribution. Without that, they really opened the door for so many other good things that happened within this budget. So thank you very much. As Karen mentioned earlier, just to acknowledge all the various activities that have been going on these last few weeks. There have been concerts and art exhibits and award ceremonies and sports recognitions. It's been a very exciting, fun time for all of us. We are approaching our moving up ceremonies and graduations next week, and I know that we're all looking forward to the promise of summer, and hopefully it will be a good one for everyone. I also wanted to take a moment, because I do have some other exciting news for the district. We have also been working hard to fill our important administrative positions, and two individuals were appointed at a separate meeting. But I think it would be, I think people would like to meet our new Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. Her name is Dr. Watha Westerfeld. She comes to us from the Freeport School District, where she held the same position She has tremendous knowledge and expertise in the area of curriculum and instruction, and we are really, really pleased and feel very fortunate that we have been able to hire her, and she will be starting on July 1st. So if Dr. Westervelt is here. Oh, here she is. Yeah. No, she's going around.
Thank you, Dr. Mooney. Good evening, everyone. I'm absolutely thrilled to be joining the Port Washington team of incredible and outstanding students and educators. And I would like to thank the Board of Education, Dr. Mooney, her cabinet, and her staff for having the confidence to bring me on board. And I'm really looking forward to working with everyone in a collaborative and collegial manner. So thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
We also hired a new director of technology. His name is Mr. Ryan Maloney. He comes to us from Valley Stream District 30, which is a K-6 elementary school district, and he also brings with him many, many years of experience with technology, and we are truly, truly looking forward to what his ideas are in helping us move forward as we embark on all our new technology initiatives for the coming school year, and of course beyond that. So if Mr. Maloney is here, it'd be nice to acknowledge him. Okay. Maybe. I also just wanted to make mention that as many people are aware, our curriculum associate for pupil personnel, Marlon Valava, is retiring at the end of June, and we have hired for his position as well. We've hired Dr. Stephanie Allen. She would be coming to us from the Sachem School District. She holds a similar type of position in Sachem at the elementary level, and she is a psychologist by background, and we are also very happy to have her join the administrative team in Port Washington as well. So thank you for that. I guess, Elaine, if you just want to briefly give us the enrollment report.
Oh, good evening. As of June 5th, our enrollment is 5,289 students. Thank you.
Okay, I will now make a motion for the approval of minutes, May 7th, 2013, May 14th, 2013, and May 21st, 2013. Do I have a second? Mrs. Johnson, all in favor? 7-0, thank you. And we will now move to the committee reports. Again, Mrs. Johnson, Policy and Personnel. Do you have anything to report?
We had meetings on May 17th and May 31st, continuing our discussion of drafting and adopting a policy regarding social media, social networking for the district. It takes in a lot of different considerations, and the conversation is ongoing. We're looking forward to having the input of our new technology director, as well as our new assistant superintendent of curriculum, and continuing discussions so we can make the best possible proposal and choices for the district. We do not as yet have a meeting scheduled, but we will be having at least one committee meeting over the summer.
Budget and Facilities, Mr. Baer?
Wrong mic. I have the Karen mic. We had a meeting yesterday. I guess the biggest thing that we covered was that there was a kickoff meeting for the bond. roofing project. All of the contractors were in reviewing the outline of the project again and making sure that all the security steps and everything else would be followed. And we anticipate right after the closing of school next Friday that they will be in and starting in the 4 buildings that we are going to repair. We had some discussions continuing about possible added revenue items, and there are some interesting things that will probably come up over the summer on ways to generate some additional revenue, including potential advertising at the fields for local merchants, possible use of our parking lots, and anywhere else that we can generate extra revenue to reinvest in the overall program of the district. Similar to policy and personnel, we don't have a meeting yet scheduled over the summer, but we will to maintain oversight on the roof projects as they continue and to be able to update the community as the need warrants over the summer.
I believe we'll also be having postings on the website about scheduling of construction for people who might be around the school for any reason to know, correct? Okay, and curriculum, Mr. Greenstein, anything?
Curriculum, we have not met since the last report, only we are waiting patiently till July 1st when we'll give Dr. Westerfield maybe till the 5th before we start hitting the ground again, and we expect to do some great things next year. So, thank you for your patience in getting through this year.
Thank you, and I will now move to the action items, items A1 through D29, pulling A4. Do I have a second? Mr. Bear, all in favor? 7-0, thank you. I would just like to thank very much for the generosity of the Dr. Edward S. Havasey, the Dan Bureau Memorial Scholarship Fund, the Blumenfeld Memorial Scholarship Fund, CSC Holdings, LLC, and Richard Boyle Memorial Scholarship Fund, and I will save the next one for you to speak about, and the Sousa Elementary School, HSA, and the Salem Elementary School, HSA, for their very generous donations to our school district. Do you want to speak to that?
Thanks, Karen. Not to diminish any of the other gifts, but out of the blue, we received a gift, a bequest from an estate in the low 6-figure range. People who met at Schreiber High School and thought this was the best place they'd ever been, and as part of their estate, they bequeathed a large sum for use of the district. And Kathy, if you want to talk about what we've discussed about with the I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot there, but it's really remarkable when someone with whom we've had no communication for about 50 years all of a sudden makes a 6-figure gift to this district. It really is remarkable and says a lot about the staying power and what this place has meant to so many people. And we can recognize the estate of Edith Costello in memory of Leo Costello and Edith Costello for an incredibly generous gift, and one that we don't usually get anything remotely approaching this size.
The gift was specifically a bequest to Schreiber High School, so it has to be used at Schreiber. And we were thinking of doing something that would have somewhat of a permanence, and we feel the front area, the front steps of Schreiber could use an upgrade and a little sprucing up. And so we're going to be looking into that as one of the ways to utilize this money, so that this couple will have something lasting in their memory. So.
And the steps are probably the same ones they walked on.
Probably.
Whole family.
I will now make a motion to approve the following board policies for adoption. Purchasing policy number 6700 and investment policy number 6240. Do I have a second? Mrs. Johnson, any discussion? Mrs. Callahan.
I'm sorry, did you not leave out an earlier item that you pulled out that you didn't vote on, A4? You're tabling it. Oh, I misunderstood. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry about that. We're tabling item A4. Okay, now, we had a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Thank you. And now I'll make a resolution for the BO meeting dates. Approve items 1 through 2 as listed below. Approve the proposed Board of Education meeting dates for the 2013-2014 school year, and be it resolved that in accordance with Section 1707 of the New York Education Law, the Board of Education, the Board, hereby designates Monday, July 1st, 2013, as the date of the Board's annual organizational meeting. Do I have a second? Mr. Hohauser, all in favor? 7-0. Thank you. I would just like to make note of the fact, to anyone who's paying attention, that it's a Monday night. The reorg meeting will be a Monday night. Now, do we have any old business? New business, Mr. Greenstein.
We've had a lot of discussion this year about testing and the pros and cons and the burdens it's been placing on the district. And we've gotten some emails, and I've been speaking to some people, and recently the Great Neck Board of Education passed a resolution regarding the over-reliance on standardized testing, and a call to the governor of the state of New York, the New York State Commissioner of Education, the New York State Board of Regents, and other policymakers to stop the over-reliance on standardized tests as a measure of student performance and principal-teacher effectiveness. Somewhat earlier, I could think in March, the New Paltz Central School District passed a similar resolution. These resolutions are not calling for the end of testing, they're calling for the end of over-testing. I don't think there's any doubt that a test is a part of an authentic assessment, but it is not the be-all and end-all of authentic assessments. And certainly the amount of testing that the young children especially have to put up with is creating a burden for both them and the staff, and creating a lot of stress. So I would like us to consider passing a resolution, either just stealing Great Neck's resolution or writing something similar to that, and just being on record. It's just a sense of the board. It's a call. It's a call for them to change anything. We're not opting out of any testing. We're not encouraging people to opt out of testing. We're not turning back the money for the testing. We're not doing anything like that. We're just saying we really want them to stop and think and look at it and maybe re-examine what they're doing, because it's not necessarily in the best interest of our students.
So I don't know where we're going to go with this discussion. We're putting forward a proposal that we want to vote on tonight, or we just want to talk about it, or we're talking about it. I can talk about it. I would just say that for me, after there's a lot of emails that went around with community members and among the board, and what I'm understanding these tests to be is they're competence exams, right? So the grade you get on the exam is 1, 2, 3, or 4. And I think that if kids are stressed out, then we have to help them not be stressed out. And they're an inconvenience, and I don't like paying for them. And I don't like having to take the time out of the school year to administer them. But I don't think I'm really against them as much as these other districts are. I think that there's information that we'll get out of them that could be helpful to the district. And I think, although it doesn't really help our district too much, because our district has a lot of 3s and 4s on those exams, I think that for the state, at the state level, it might make a lot of sense for the state to be implementing this. Obviously, they think it makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, we can talk more about it if we want to keep, want to talk more about it. But we'd have to really think about, I'm all for saying that I don't like paying for something that the state thinks is important out of our pocket. If they think it's important, then as a mandate, they should give us the money to implement it, because it's expensive. And that's it.
Yeah, I think one of the issues, one of the other issues with the testing is I'm not sure there is any data that correlates whether a child gets a 3 or a 4 with whether they end up with an advanced Regents diploma. I mean, we've been giving these tests for a long time. I don't know whether we've established that we can tell in 3rd grade whether a kid is going to be college ready or not based upon the 3rd grade test. They seem to change the tests every year. They seem to just helter-skelter, just pick up questions and change them and throw them out, and they have questions about pineapples, and the tests are not, there is no data that shows that the tests are predictive. And I think that for the most part, if our teachers can tell us which students are struggling and which students are doing well and which students need support because they're in the classroom with them 6.5 hours a day, and I don't think there are very many surprises when we do get the test results, and therefore if we already know for the most part what the test results are going to be, then the tests really just are taking time away where we could be teaching the children something that they actually need to know. And if you look at the amount of testing, the amount of days lost to testing, we are giving up a really large percentage of our instructional time between prepping for the test and administering the test. We're losing a lot of staff time. We're losing a lot of everything else. And while there is some validity to test prep as an educational method, I would guess that most teachers would say their time could be used more effectively if they were not test prepping. And so I think, you know, it's hard enough for kids to get through school, and it's hard enough, and you know, we got an email today about somebody who said that their kid doesn't like school anymore because they have to take all of these tests. And I think it really is something that turns a lot of people off and turns a lot of the kids off. I think it's especially damaging to kids who are on the outliers in all directions. I think it's a, you know, as I said, it could be a tool, but I actually think we probably have better internal assessments than the state can ever provide us, just as we do most things better than the state can ever provide us. And so I think that encouraging the state to stop and look, and if they're going to come up with assessments, come up with meaningful assessments, come up with things that work, come up with things that don't take that much time, don't give us field tests to just check the kids because you want to see if your next year's test is going to be okay. And you know, take more days away from our instruction. Don't delay in getting back the results so that they're not even helpful to the teachers who are giving the tests. I mean, there are just so many things wrong with the way New York State has implemented this, and so many things that it's damaging to, you know, to districts like ours. I think it's damaging to a lot of districts. I think that if a district doesn't know how their kids are doing without these tests, there's a lot more underlying problems in that district than the testing.
All right. Reading the resolutions and having listened to a lot of these arguments for many years now, I'm struck by a couple of things. Number one, I don't think these resolutions are going to have much of an impact in and of themselves. They're very nice. They sound great. We say there's over-reliance on testing. I don't think very many people will dispute that. But I think we have a challenge to the district and to us on the board and the professional staff, and I think we have to make it our business to get ahead of this testing. And probably not only just say we don't think the testing serves a purpose, but to say this is how we feel it can be done better. And Dr. Westervelt, this may be a challenge for you to show us how we can do better than the state in assessing and maybe getting other people to buy into that. Because as Larry has said before, and I'm not prepared to go down this road, but Larry said this for years, and I sense his frustration. Get out. Just don't do what the state wants us to do. I don't think that's the right idea, but I think we have to just say, look, here's how we think it can be done better, and not just say it's wrong. And I think that's the challenge, because just putting out an advisory memo is spitting in the ocean, and that's unfortunate, and it may make us feel good about ourselves, but I don't think it's enough, and that's a challenge that I think we have to bring upon it, take to our hearts as well.
Oh, yes. I agree with what Bill said. When we talked about this a little bit, one of the things we said was taking the resolution and then finding the points that we thought we might as a district be able to impact within our community. And filing, as I thought the phrase you used, Nora, was an amicus brief? I mean, right.
That's why I said an advisory.
Right. Suggesting where we really saw folly in the present system. But there are certain things that we're not going to get away from, and that while the test is a 1, 2, 3, 4, the 1s and 2s immediately have a definitive impact on the district for AIS and a financial concern. I think a strong point we need to make are the unfunded parts of all of the ongoing state mandates when we look at the $1 million we're absorbing for online testing and things like that that just come skittering down the road, and that we are literally required to be in conformity with. There are two sides to these, which type, the question tests that come for next year's questions. Field testing. One of the reasons we actually participate to a degree is we get a look at what next year's tests might look like, and there is some value to that. To Vern's point, somewhere along the line, everybody gets tested and everybody gets judged. The part that I'm the most disappointed about is that the wandering and the adventure of learning can get shortchanged by the need to try to get 25 children in a classroom to a certain level. And it's that part of education that in the longer run is the part that we need to emphasize more and find ways to challenge our kids with that part while being successful on 1 and 1 is 2. And again, that's where I think our district needs to challenge ourselves from a board level, then to an administration level, down through the building principals, and then into the classroom. What are we doing? It was just funny, passing the bus stop today, there were a bunch of kindergartners getting on, and they're the class of 2025. And the kids who were just born this year are the class of 2030. And what is education really going to look like then, and what are we doing today to continually prepare for that? Testing better, preparing them better, and all of those things I think are things that we have to challenge from where we sit here. And then we can go to the state, but we have to use our money as wisely as we can and as creatively as we can, find other ways to raise money, and then reinvest that into some of the programs, because as Bill said, we're not going to change this overnight. But I think to Larry's point, we have to step up and push back, and that collectively on Long Island, clearly there is a differentiation between the level of education here, necessarily not the same across the state. If you're the governor and you're the regents, you have to try to balance that some way. That's to our detriment at the moment, but I think that we can push back and then manage within our cocoon here as best as possible.
I agree with a lot of what Alan just said, and also most of what Bill said. I think that definitely I think most of us have a lot of very legitimate concerns about the reliance on the testing, the extent to which people are, everyone is focused on it, and the costs involved, the unfunded, that is an unfunded, yet again another unfunded mandate, and going forward we have to buy computers and use other technology just to administer the tests that we're being told we have to give. But I don't know that signing off on another district's resolution is going to really change anything other than making us feel like we're doing something, but we're not really doing enough by doing that. I'd like to, the way Alan described and the way Bill said, go further into like what the real problems are and how we can improve the system and push back where we can push back, but not settle, and not that this is what was said, but I don't want to get the feeling that we're settling into, you know, a resolution that's really not going to accomplish, I don't think it's going to accomplish anything other than, you know, be put on a desk somewhere in Albany.
I think that for the point of it, having a resolution from our board is a very strong statement and a good statement, and I would like our board to do it. But I've heard the reservations, and I think they are legitimate, and I would like to ask Mr. Greenstein, because he raised it, so he gets the work, if he would try to put something together based on these things and see if we can't come up with something that we feel is more tailored to our district, coming from our district, and perhaps touch on all the reservations that were raised and see if we can't have a letter. I think it's a very strong statement to be unanimous from our board. If that's not possible, everyone needs to vote their conscience, but I think if we could do that, it's worth the effort, and I think it's important to stand behind our misgivings on this issue, which are longstanding, and though they might come from some different places from some of us, I think we all agree that our voices have to be heard, and we can't say anything about it if we're not willing to do anything about it. So I thank you for raising it, and I hope you will be willing to take that on, and I hope we can do it shortly. It won't be something that rolls on and on. So do you think we can tackle that?
I will attempt to tackle that, and certainly I was not proposing that we do this and then say, okay, we're done. However, if we do this, we're sort of putting our feet to the fire in terms of, okay, you've passed that resolution, now do something about it and going further. But certainly, not passing a resolution doesn't help in any way. Even if passing the resolution doesn't help in any way. So there doesn't seem to be a downside to doing it. If that is what the will of the board is, that we are being, that the testing program as it currently stands is not in our best interest of our kids.
And there was just one of the things that kept coming up in some of the emails that we got and some of the things we talked about is that the kids are stressed out for these tests. But, you know, we should all remind the kids that the field testing is completely insignificant. You know, there's negative things in terms of time and cost in administering them, but from the kids' perspective, no kid should be worried or scared about taking these field testing, because they're just they're giving these questions just so they can come up with good questions, and right, I mean, there's no grades that come out. The other thing is that I hope that none of the kids are being told that they have to, you know, you have to do well on these tests either, because again, these are competency tests. They're not putting kids, you know, like, there's no trick questions where a kid's going to go from a 4 to a 4+ to a 4++, and he has to stress out about this distinction. This is not really about testing the kids. It's about testing the system. And, you know, I just, it wouldn't be appropriate, I think, for kids to get stressed out to take these exams. So the more we can communicate that to them, that would at least make me feel a lot better about it. Because all of the things that I've heard about this, some of the big concerns are my kids are so stressed out because they're being tested so much. If they realize that it's not really, when you're in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, how you do on this test is not going to, you know, it's not going to change the path of your life. Anyway, that's it.
I don't want to spend a long time harping on it because I think Larry's going to go from here with the test, but I just want to say that I don't think that's entirely accurate, because while I do think we should be working with our families and our students and try to reduce stress for any students where we can, there are ramifications for the kids based on their scores, depending on their grade, but they could have to go into intervention services. They could have just had a bad day, but they got a bad score, and now they have to do that. There are ramifications, and the parents are aware of that, and the teachers are aware of that, and then the kids become aware of it. And the younger that they're having to take the tests, the younger they become aware of that. So there are some ramifications. The field testing, there isn't, but that's a very small part of this. And the field testing, to some may in fact be the one thing that is helpful to us, because then we also sometimes get a seat at the table and talking about the test. So that's a small part of it. But Larry, do you want to wrap this up? Oh, and then Dr. Mooney wanted to speak.
Just one semi-related thing that, if I understand it correctly, the scores that the kids get, these tests are created by private companies and graded by private companies. The scores that each kid get are then sold to other companies where we receive no compensation. And if your kid gets a 2, the parent is going to get some sales information in the mail from a private company saying, for $1,000, we can bring that up to a 3. So our kids are being used as marketing tools. The tests are purposely geared to make sure that they're marketing tools. And if everybody got 4s, they could not possibly market to them. So our kids' confidentiality is being violated, which is allowed under this law. And it's just another way to sort of get into our pocketbooks and separate those who can pay for their kids to have support from those who can't pay for their kids to have support. And I know that's not quite related to it, but it is part of the same issue. But I will work on it, so thank you.
Further to that point, Larry's so correct on this one. Just today, my younger daughter, who's graduating and going to college next year, received a solicitation from one of these companies about her college preparation selection, as if she's a 10th grader or 11th grader, not knowing where she's going to school. The other problem with this, and this has been left unsaid, is of course the monetary impact all these tests have on the district. And that is that the $1 million this is going to cost to implement this, train everybody, is going to come out from a budget that is essentially fixed. So it directly has a disproportionate impact on the educational quality and capacity of the district. And that's not going to go away. And that's why I said we can't just twist in the wind or tilt in windmills here. We have to demonstrate that we can do better and how we can, and propose something affirmatively rather than just saying no. I think that's very important, Larry, when you draft whatever you're doing. Bless you, Karen.
Thank you. I was just trying to get you to stop talking.
I talk less than most people. Oh.
The only thing I just wanted to speak to, Larry, you're talking about the in bloom. That's that hold, and we really do need to pay attention to that particular issue in terms of student confidentiality. The only thing I just wanted to say, Vern, to your concern or issue about students being stressed out, part of the stress in terms of the test, even if it may not count, it is the nature of the questions and the content that frustrates children, because oftentimes they're being tested for information that they have not yet been taught, because the state is trying to do not only horizontal alignment but vertical alignment of their tests. That's part of the field testing or some of the embedded questions in the tests, and that in and of itself makes children feel very frustrated, as I said, and very upset sometimes, because they're afraid that they don't know. They should know the information, and they don't know it. My comment just to the board is that I think the administration and the staff would welcome some type of commentary resolution on this particular issue, and we thank you for taking this on and for speaking about it publicly. I agree with you, Larry, in terms of opt-out. It's not necessarily to encourage opt-out, but I agree that our voice also needs to be heard in terms of what we feel this type of testing is doing to the educational process and to our children's well-being. So, thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to hearing from you, Larry, by tomorrow. We'll now have our second opportunity for the community to be heard. Does anyone want to be heard? Does anyone want to do more square dancing?
Thank you. Christine Vasilev, Port Washington Teachers Association. First, I want to thank the board for the recognition given to the teachers in Port Washington. We will certainly share the message, and we are very grateful for it any day of the year. So thank you for that. Secondly, I would like to also thank the board for looking at having a resolution that makes a clear, concise statement about the over-reliance on testing. This is not about an avoidance of having our students tested. Certainly, many of us would question the validity of using those scores to assess teachers. You know, let me take the children home and raise them, and then judge me based on their test scores so that I'm sure they've had adequate sleep, enough to eat, etc. A loving, nurturing environment that so many of our children do get in Port Washington. But NYSUT, the New York State United Teachers, has encouraged school boards, especially in districts of excellence, to make a statement. And you need to know that it is being heard. The Board of Regents, recently, the Commissioner of Education made a recommendation to impose at the last minute a different model, what's called a value-added model, on the assessment of teachers and principals. And it was because of the strong statements of districts that knew that doing this at the last hour and imposing it retroactively was wrong. The regents are hearing this, and they are going to vote on Monday, and we are very hopeful that they take a responsible view. Thank you, Dr. Mooney, for so clearly articulating some of the problems with the testing. And one of the issues is that students were tested on materials that had not been taught, and they had not been taught because they were based on the previous year's curriculum. When asked, what are you doing? Why are you testing children and putting them through this on material they have never learned? They have not been taught. It hasn't been rolled out yet. The Commissioner of Education said, well, it might hurt kids for a few years, but then it'll be all right. Well, from our perspective, and clearly from this community's perspective, no, we're not willing that for a few years, a few kids are harmed needlessly. We wouldn't tolerate that for a single minute. And so I'm very grateful that the board is working on this. I will be forwarding to Larry some of the language that I've heard that seems to be clear, and if there's any way that we can help, it is not an avoidance of fair testing. We welcome that. But it's the cynical view that has been taken that we would love to unite with this board in challenging. So thank you very much.
Are there any other comments at this time? Okay, then we are adjourned. Thank you.